Section 8 of Confessions, Volumes 1 and 2. This Librivox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Martin Geeson. Confessions, Volumes 1 and 2, by Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Anonymously translated. Section 8. I never thought money so desirable as it is usually imagined. If you would enjoy, you must transform it, and this transformation is frequently attended with inconvenience. You must bargain, purchase, pay dear, be badly served, and often duped. I buy an egg, am assured it is new laid. I find it stale. Fruit in its utmost perfection, 'tis absolutely green. I love good wine, but where shall I get it? Not at my wine merchant's, he will poison me to a certainty. I wish to be universally respected. How shall I compass my design? I must make friends, send messages, write letters, come, go, wait, and be frequently deceived. Money is the perpetual source of uneasiness. I fear it more than I love good wine. 1,000 times, both during and since my apprenticeship, have I gone out to purchase some nicety. I approach the pastry cooks, perceive some women at the counter, and imagine they are laughing at me. I pass a fruit shop, see some fine pears, their appearance tempts me, but then 2 or 3 young people are near, or a man I am acquainted with is standing at the door. I take all that pass for persons I have some knowledge of, and my near sight contributes to deceive me. I am everywhere intimidated, restrained by some obstacle, and with money in my pocket, return as I went, for want of resolution to purchase what I long for. I should enter into the most insipid details, was I to relate the trouble, shame, repugnance, and inconvenience of all kinds which I have experienced in parting with my money, whether in my own person or by the agency of others. As I proceed, the reader will get acquainted with my disposition, and perceive all this without my troubling him with the recital. This once comprehended, one of my apparent contradictions will be easily accounted for, and the most sordid avarice reconciled with the greatest contempt of money. It is a movable which I consider of so little value that, when destitute of it, I never wish to acquire any, and when I have a sum, I keep it by me, for want of knowing how to dispose of it to my satisfaction. But let an agreeable and convenient opportunity present itself, and I empty my purse with the utmost freedom. Not that I would have the reader imagine that I am extravagant from a motive of ostentation. Quite the reverse. It was ever in subservience to my pleasures, and instead of glorying in expense, I endeavor to conceal it. I so well perceive that money is not made to answer my purposes, that I am almost ashamed to have any, and still more to make use of it. Had I ever possessed a moderate independence, I am convinced I should have had no propensity to become avaricious. I should have required no more and cheerfully lived up to my income. But my precarious situation has constantly and necessarily kept me in fear. I love liberty, and I loathe constraint, dependence, and all their kindred annoyances. As long as my purse contains money, it secures my independence, and exempts me from the trouble of seeking other money, a trouble of which I have always had a perfect horror, and the dread of seeing the end of my independence makes me proportionately unwilling to part with my money. The money that we possess is the instrument of liberty. That which we lack and strive to obtain is the instrument of slavery. Thence it is that I hold fast to aught that I have, and yet covet nothing more. My disinterestedness, then, is in reality only idleness. The pleasure of possessing is not, in my estimation, worth the trouble of acquiring, and my dissipation is only another form of idleness. When we have an opportunity of disbursing pleasantly, we should make the best possible use of it. I am less tempted by money than by other objects, because between the moment of possessing the money and that of using it to obtain the desired object, there is always an interval, however short, whereas to possess the thing is to enjoy it. I see a thing and it tempts me, but if I see not the thing itself, but only the means of acquiring it, I am not tempted. Therefore it is that I have been a pilferer, and am so even now, in the way of mere trifles to which I take a fancy, and which I find it easier to take than to ask for. But I never in my life recollect having taken a farthing from any one, except about 15 years ago, when I stole 7 francs and 10 sous. The story is worth recounting, as it exhibits a concurrence of ignorance and stupidity I could scarcely credit did it relate to any but myself. It was in Paris. I was walking with M. de Franceul at the Palais Royal. He pulled out his watch, he looked at it, and said to me, "Suppose we go to the opera?" "With all my heart." We go. He takes 2 box tickets, gives me 1, and enters himself with the other. I follow, find the door crowded, and looking in, see everyone standing. Judging, therefore, that M. de Franceul might suppose me concealed by the company, I go out, ask for my ticket, and getting the money returned, leave the house, without considering that by when I had reached the door everyone would be seated, and M. de Franceul might readily perceive I was not there. As nothing could be more opposite to my natural inclination than this abominable meanness, I note it to show there are moments of delirium, when men ought not to be judged by their actions. This was not stealing the money, it was only stealing the use of it, and was the more infamous for wanting the excuse of a temptation. I should never end these accounts was I to describe all the gradations through which I passed during my apprenticeship, from the sublimity of a hero to the baseness of a villain. Though I entered into most of the vices of my situation, I had no relish for its pleasures. The amusements of my companions were displeasing, and when too much restraint had made my business wearisome, I had nothing to amuse me. This renewed my taste for reading, which had long been neglected. I thus committed a fresh offence. Books made me neglect my work, and brought on additional punishment, while inclination, strengthened by constraint, became an unconquerable passion. La Tribu, a well-known librarian, furnished me with all kinds. Good or bad, I perused them with avidity, and without discrimination. It will be said, at length then money became necessary. True, but this happened at a time when a taste for study had deprived me both of resolution and activity. Totally occupied by this new inclination, I only wished to read, I robbed no longer. This is another of my peculiarities. A mere nothing frequently calls me off from what I appear the most attached to. I give in to the new idea, it becomes a passion, and immediately every former desire is forgotten. Reading was my new hobby. My heart beat with impatience to run over the new book I carried in my pocket. The first moment I was alone, I seized the opportunity to draw it out, and thought no longer of rummaging my master's closet. I was even ashamed to think that I had been guilty of such meanness, and had my amusements been more expensive, I no longer felt an inclination to continue it. La Tribu gave me credit, and when once I had the book in my possession, I thought no more of the trifle I was to pay for it. As money came, it naturally passed to this woman, and when she chanced to be pressing, nothing was so conveniently at hand as my own effects. To steal in advance required foresight, and robbing to pay was no temptation. The frequent blows I received from my master, with my private and ill-chosen studies, rendered me reserved, unsociable, and almost deranged my reason. Though my taste had not preserved me from silly, unmeaning books, by good fortune I was a stranger to licentious or obscene ones. Not that La Tribu, who was very accommodating, had any scruple of lending these; on the contrary, to enhance their worth, she spoke of them with an air of mystery. This produced an effect she had not foreseen, for shame and disgust made me constantly refuse them. Chance so well seconded my bashful disposition, that I was past the age of 30 before I saw any of those dangerous compositions. End of section 8. Recording by Martin Geeson in Hazelmere, Surrey.